you're torturing yourself trying to get this release out. At the other end of the work
He's
life,
on a boat.
On the other end of the work-life balance spectrum, you've quit and you spent a year on a boat. How did you get to that decision? What was the sort of thought process? You're in your prime. You just came off a big success with this company. You've got plenty of bucks. You're an entrepreneur in demand. It's still pretty heady time, right? The world hadn't fallen apart yet.
Yeah, no.
What played into your choice to go take a year off?
So I was sitting in an office being told not to build, not to grow, and ultimately not to sell and not to talk to my customers. And I was getting paid an obscene amount of money to sit there and do nothing because the stock options were vesting and BEA had gone from 8 to 80. So
and split twice.
yeah, that includes the splits, I think. He's the factual one tonight. That's good. So I had a lot of creative tension and energy that I needed to do something big. I was bored out of my mind, and I said, what could I do that would be really big? And I started thinking about it. I remember thinking about it for days, and I didn't share it with my wife, Jerry, who is in the audience. And finally, I kind of put it all together in my head, and I said, this is the biggest, boldest, craziest thing I can do. Let's go take our kids, drop out, live on a boat, sail around the world. And when I gave her the pitch, I said, you can't say anything until I get it all out, because I was so committed even after 3 or 4 days that if she'd have stopped me, it would have just crushed me, because I was convinced. And I made this pitch to her, and at the end she said, sure, let's go. And if a company can't give an entrepreneur a challenge, then they've got to force themselves to do something else. And I really wanted to spend time with my kids. I was working long and hard hours, so that was definitely the best year and a half of my life.
Cool. So how did you're on your boat, you're now coming back, re-entering society, learning how to brush your teeth again every day. How did Rally get formed? What was sort of the impetus behind it? What was the sort of beginning stages of that?
So on the exercise leaving BEA, I'd done a lot of work on what was happening next in the industry, and so I was convinced that the internet technology that we knew that was driving browsers would be driving machine-to-machine communications, what most people call web services nowadays, and that was going to have a huge impact on the application space, not the infrastructure, the plumbing of software. So I set out and actually started talking to companies like Raindance and others about how to make systems talk to each other, and we should create these environments where we merge different systems on the internet. So you could, this was my pitch to Raindance, was we could take video conferencing with medical imaging, and we'd be making some vertical conferencing system for doctors to be able to serve now much more narrow market spaces by combining these web properties and web services applications. And I went to, this was right after September 11th. Everything was pretty much done at that point in time. Everybody looked at me like, that would have been great about a year ago. We would have bought into that whole story, but we're not buying anything now. And so it turned from that to the only application space that I really knew how to do was project management for software development teams. And it was based on project management for what worked for us at Avitech, which was small, short time boxes. And if we could do that, but do it with lots of teams, we would build fundamentally a different project management system, one that was a Microsoft project that showed us this amazing amount of stuff, but one that allowed us to see just what was in our context, but it would roll up so that we could run real big projects with lots of small teams. And so that was the genesis.
So you have this germ of a new idea. How did you go from germ of a new idea to something that was more substantive? What were the people that you got around you, financing? What did that look like for the first year or so?
So there's some great stories. So Tim's off on a boat. All the folks that we hired at BEA are still at BEA. I had a great experience with the CTO. I couldn't feel like I could steal people. I didn't have anything really yet. So I ended up hooking up with a friend back from 1995 after I'd left the consulting company Tim and I were at. We started working on this together and said, hey, we're going to form this thing, but there was still a lot of venture money around. I want to do this as a product company. I want it to be a subscription business. That's really important to what we're doing because that's part of what's changing the software industry. And so we're not going to have a lot of license revenue on the front side to grow this. We need to figure this out as a nice, slow subscription business. Well, just about before we were going to close $400,000 in friends and family money, he backed out after we'd already divvied up the founder's pie, which was a huge mistake. Luckily not something I worry about anymore, but it was certainly a learning experience.
So just to be clear, when you say you divvied it up, his stock was not subject to restricted vesting?
It
All
was
right,
done.
so he's walking away with a percentage of the company
He'll make a little
before
bit
he
of
did the
money.
work.
Yeah, he's going to make a little bit of money.
Okay.
So that was a mistake.
I always like it when there's a legal takeaway from
Yes.
these conversations.
Yes. I substituted somebody
Minor
else.
relevance.
Yeah.
Thanks for the conference room, the auditorium.
So you can see where I'm strong and where I'm weak. It's certainly coming out right now, right? So I'm missing a lot without him here. I substitute somebody else in, and actually Legil. Legil was the holdout, and I got Legil over the hurdle, and I set a bar for myself. If I couldn't raise $350,000, I couldn't do this company. So that was my first hurdle.
When you say you got Legil over the hurdle as an investor.
As an investor.
So,
Yep.
so for those of you that don't know Jim Legil, he was Jim's now the CFO at Rally, but he was one of the founders of Raindance and did a bunch of angel investing, and then started a company called Oxlo, which is still going. But he was sort of part of.
Tim and Jerry were in. I'd gotten a bunch of people that we knew about. Don was in from who's our EVP of sales. Parents, in-laws. Let's go a little further into a couple other. My old boss was in, and so I substituted Jim in. I cleared the 350, and that was the toughest question: was to sign the piece of paper that took $350,000 from friends and family.
So you raised a friends and family round. At this time, the auspicious name of the company was?
F4 Technologies.
Yes.
F4 Technologies, and this was all done basically working out of Brad's incubator, which had some space at that point in time, in the end of 2001. And it was done on a prototype of what we thought this thing would look like, and some promises from the BEA team that, yeah, this looked like something we'd want to use. And so that, you could do that back then. Obviously, that's not the case today, but you could do that back then. And we built out that prototype, got a beta working, got it to a place that now we had some customers who said we would take money, that we could take money off the table for doing this thing. We got to a Series A, talked to all, I don't know how many times I did practice pitches in the Mobius incubator. I'm guessing 60. I'm guessing Seth and Chris and maybe a little bit of Howard and various Mike Stack and others here in the room had to be wondering, how's he going to do this? Because I just can't, I don't think like an investor, I think like customers. I was building the app for myself, I was building the app for the BEA team, I knew exactly what we were building, but to communicate it and to say, look, it's going to be a subscription service. Subscription software, I mean, there's this thing called Salesforce, they had about, 1,000 free customers at that point in time and no revenue. And it's this thing called Agile, these little time boxes. Who does Agile? What is Agile? All of this stuff was new, and it was way early. And Brad's team figured out that there was something here. I think only because I had traipsed so many people through that everybody else was proof. Now, I don't think I could describe it to save my soul.
We gave up. We couldn't bear
It
to
was
see it
just
again.
brute force, right?